I've been living like this since I've been a child, but I never told anybody because I thought everybody could do it.
Right, right.
Like I said, but I was also in fear. If you're in fear, that limits everything into a different state of mind. And I see a lot of people that have got a lot of natural gifts, but they're so boxed in that they're afraid to even pick out, to even look.
Welcome to the Consciousness of the Way. I am your humble servant and seafood Taoist Master Sun Ching, and I have an incredible new friend here today, Jenny, who is basically a phenomenon across the internet, giving people an awakening to an understanding of how to dive deep into all things consciousness. And through her own exploration of where she is today, she's given incredible insight and sharing with people how to find this within themselves. So welcome to the podcast. And I'm just so excited that you're here. And I'm really looking forward to sharing your experience, your journey with the Way community.
I really appreciate you because what you said, I felt you. And when I can feel someone, it makes a difference. It makes a different kind of dance because we can dance. I knew the minute I met your email, I knew you could dance with me and that you understood what I was saying, that I can do some amazing things, but you can do amazing things. We all can do amazing things if we'll fall back into ourselves and really be trained by the higher consciousness of ourselves.
Yeah.
And there is a spirit in that, and it's very much alive right now, this moment, every second. And
Well, you and I are experiencing this incredible bonding moment with the energies that are being expansive just right now.
And yeah.
So all the audience, the OGs of the 126, which is the Way, I want you guys to realize that tapping into this is really euphoric. It is absolutely. And
feel when you go into particles, I can go right through the computer. When I work with my clients, I can go through and touch them, and they say, "How can you do that?" That's because we're just particles.
Yeah.
We're just this body is just holding your special most gifts of all, and they're really not gifts. This is a thing that I've been really trying to teach for 25 years. We don't have gifts, we have natural abilities. And if we don't tap into those natural abilities, not everybody, it's just like some people can play the piano, but some people can really play the piano. So we have to learn how those gifts, then they're not gifts, they're abilities, and where that comes in to really raise us to that higher consciousness. And you already know what I'm talking about because you can feel me when I'm saying it. It's the truth.
Well, and that attunement is an expansion of being a being acceptant of all things,
Yes.
not contractive and filtering and vetting, which is how the human mind sort of limits itself and then it traps itself in this physical body.
Yes. Yes.
And I would love for you to share with the audience your journey leading up to where we are today and how you got here.
Well, let's go all the way back. I was my mother's 7th miscarriage in 1951. And I didn't really they didn't even know I was going to make it, to be that little. And I've drowned twice when I was 11 and 16. Wow. And had experiences there. I have had 2 strokes, did not go to the hospital, did them myself. I've had 2 heart attacks. And in 2019, I was completely paralyzed from the neck down, and came out from a MRI because I met a guy 40 years prior at a wedding reception who was one of the inventors of the Tesla MRI. And I took all because I was teaching. So I took all the notes down. And when I saw the Tesla, when I went in to him, I had to go in because they want to check to see what was going. Why was I had lost all my electrolytes, everything. I couldn't eat nothing. They were gone, everything. And I remember when I saw the Tesla MRI, you'll understand what I'm saying. I said, "Is that a Tesla?" And the tech said, "Yes." And I said, "Oh my God, I know this." I went in there and I took every bit of the electromagnetics and the magnetic. No, it's all magnetic and electric. I knew how to go in and process it. And when I came out, I was completely in light. And I mean, 3 days I was at that hospital. I was 68 years old at that time. And they thought I'd be in there for about 2 weeks or so. I was out in less than 3 days.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's amazing work when you really understand that you are light and there is a light energy that's going through. There is a spirit within every one of us. And if you really, connect to that and have a relationship with that and really learn how to work with that, you can heal. I'm 72 years old. I should have been dead a long time ago.
Oh,
And
your
I'm, yeah.
vibrancy, your vibrancy. I don't mean to interrupt you, but the amount of energy that's transmitting from you, Jenny, is
Thank
something
you.
else.
You can feel it.
And then that's really the testament to what you're speaking on, and the more that people understand energy, the transmission of that is like, especially when you're talking about things where, hey, look, I had an issue with my heart, I had a couple of strokes. This is a fundamentally very limited from a physical perspective. This means really nothing when you're able to harness the type of energy that Jenny can harness. It's like that envelops and instantly changes the cellular structure, and of course, gives yourself healing. Give yourself a healing, and that's a testament to it today, because you're admitting that is out there. That's very powerful. It's like,
on it. Oh, yes. I've done some really deep, like I said, 16 and 17, 18 hours a day in my body, not outside. Because the first, when the one that really I remember is the near death one in 1998 when I was 46 years old.
Please share it with us.
And that was when I was being prepared. I mean, we had a farm, and I mean, I was going everywhere. I was a community person. I was a country clubber. I was a lifeguard. I taught. I mean, busy, thinking I'm doing everything that's what it really did make me wake up. That one in 1998 is I really practiced all the rules, A, B, C. And then I'm laying in a bed at the age of 46, completely now in a heart attack. And they've told me that I needed a heart transplant. Now, that's shocking. But the week before I was telling you, I was sitting in my chair by myself, and I was there wasn't anybody, and it was in the summer. And so I was looking, and this guy came out of the TV and he said, "Don't get a heart transplant." And I was thinking, wow, and you can see he looked 90 years old. And I thought, first thing when he said he had to do 90 pills a day, I said, I'm out, because I can't even get an aspirin sometimes. So I thought 90 pills. And then he said if he missed one or two or vomited that day, he had to start all over. And I said, I'm done. I even remember thinking, I'm done. I won't be doing that. And he kept saying it to me and like leaning in. And I kept thinking, and is he talking to me? And when he finally looked right at me again, and I knew he was talking to me. And like I said, I raised my hand up and said, I will not get a heart transplant. I'm 46 years old. I walk 4 miles a day. I'm up and down. And I mean, I had a farm. I was busy. I was a busy woman with 2 children and a farm. And I didn't even think of it. The next week, yep, I'm looking right at it. And I remember, because this is something that I learned in this. You don't have time to really think about anything when you're in that place. And if I hadn't seen that man and had been taken back so badly and said, I will not get a heart transplant, I probably would have gone out and take it. But because I was previewed of coming attractions, I knew that I'd had these experiences before when I was a child. I saw demons in my closet. Things talked to me. I had angels that would appear. I mean, now I couldn't tell. My mother was a lot like me, but my mother was terrified by it. Okay. And so was I. So when you live in the world of terror and fear, those things look very demonic. They look very bad. But when you flip everything and when I got into this near death experience with the heart attack, it made me come into a different state of mind because I was really in a different world. There are two worlds, and you know this as well as there is the world of flat. And when I say flat, I'll tell people it's a flat earth. It is a flat earth. To me, when I came out of the reality world of truth, and it was alive, and everything was alive. Everything was alive. The grass was alive. Everything talked. It was the most amazing thing. But when I walked back into the world of man, it was flat. It was not pretty. It was not pristine like I had been in. And then I realized I can change everything around me. And so I started changing my world in the present moment to be in that state of mind for the rest of my life.
This insight is so profound because there is rippling effects of information that are coming from all different areas within the world stage right now. Like we're in the presence of excess information, and to be able to validate what you're speaking of by the transmission, by the feeling. So anyone in the audience that is listening to Jenny right now, you will, my regular audience, they will be able to feel the transmission. It's so powerful. And you have just so much that is just, it's healing. So when you're connecting with her frequency or energy, it's instantaneous alteration, and only to a higher frequency. People need to understand that. So the sort of narrative of an emotional state that would be anything less than complete acceptance, which some people are just fearful when they experience energy, right?
Yes. Well, it scares them. Well, and then I'm very bright. When I walk into a room, it makes them either do this or they receive it. And I have come to the reality of my own self that I don't want anybody in my plan of divineness that doesn't need to be there, because I don't need to travel with them. I don't need, I only have a few people that have been with me for a long time. And I have some clients that I've had for 15 or 20 years. So, I mean, I've been doing this. I am a healer. That's what I came in to do but healer, heal thyself. Every time I have an incident that comes through, I go in to learn it, to come back to tell you how to do it. Wow. Because we all can heal we shouldn't be going through, because I just had a heart attack just a year ago. And wow. I walked in 24 hours, I was back home, because I don't follow I'm a difficult patient for young cardiologists, because I've already done it. And once you've done it, I'm not threatened by them telling me, this could kill you. I said, I've already done it. If I've already done it, and I've done it several times, and I can go in and out of body anytime I want to. In fact, I know that for a fact. And I was telling you, I sat in my couch one day, and I heard a voice says, you need to learn Tai Chi. And I said, I don't want to practice like that. He said, not the real Tai Chi, you don't need to do anything. Sit still and your body will do it for you. And next thing I know, my hand raised up, it came back in. I went straight out. It went through the window, went to the next door neighbor's brick, and I scratched his brick, and I knew I was scratching his brick, and I knew it was his. And he came back and he said, and you can do many more. And I went, whoa. You gotta be
that, my friend, is what we're talking about when we dip deeper into levels of consciousness. And so the thing that I sort of always have a healthy debate with many people when they talk about NDEs, OBEs, astral projection, that, from my perspective, using more ancient techniques that I'm used to from Taoism, this is what we speak of. What Jenny's talking about is a level of sensory perception where most people have this conceptual idea, and this is the difference between what Jenny and I are talking about and what a lot of people are talking about, because it's something they read in a book or they heard somewhere. They're not actually experiencing it. And so what's going on is she's completely conscious and projecting into these dimensions. So we're not eyes closed, I got to be out of my body, I got to look at my body. No. This is a fundamental transformation. That surge we're getting right now is another validation of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and so it builds when we start really looking at it.
And she's conscious, for the audience, she's conscious with her eyes open. And this is a technique that within Taoism, we call it Nigong, more an internal
Yeah.
alchemy technique. And so you are just getting the fast forward version of what you already know. When your guides were telling you, is it guides or guide?
No, it's one guy. It's me.
Okay. So you were giving yourself the insight to refresh yourself on something you already knew.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, and
But
then you just went straight into it.
yeah. Well, I was trained. I mean, I did not have a master here. What I did is I would have these great, but they would come in. It looked like different, factions. But and then when I realized that's me, because I had to fracture myself because I couldn't imagine I could be that good, that big, that strong, that I mean, and I've had more of these experiences all through my life because I almost was raped 3 times, and this energy saved my ass. And I mean, picked me up out of my body and made me go toward that man. And I mean, it scared him. All 3 of those men were scared. But for a long, long time, I was scared of it. I was scared because I didn't know if I was a demon. Because I mean, it would come out of nowhere, and I mean, and because I've almost drowned. Like I said, I trust it now. I've learned how to dance with the beast and the beauty at the same time. You feel that?
It's perfection. And for the audience to understand this, Jenny's sort of being able to dip in a dimensional shift that alters 3D reality. People need to understand this. We're talking
It melts it. It melts it.
It melts it, and you're making alterations to give people and yourself an understanding. So when you're shifting to those dimensions, that's how you acquire manifestation, magic, healing. You have to be able to operate in all dimensions at once, and that's the part.
Yes, and most people don't even understand that because they're either one here, or they're not grounded. And they get mad at me because they said, "Why is it that?" I said, "Because it's so simple. This is not hard. It's not A, B, C, D. I mean, I tried Reiki, and then I realized Reiki's too much. That when you can do something, all you have to do is you just get still and listen inside." But then you project whatever you choose on a higher level.
Yeah.
But when I knew that that's why I started talking about it, because we all can do this. Everybody can do this. But we've been so programmed in our minds and in our surroundings, and we have followed the rules. That's why we're stuck. We're in a box. And see, I've had 3 emotional breakdowns, and I was in a box every time. God really, when I say God, I'm talking about that higher beingness that is very much alive, very supernatural, very live, and it's alive. It would come in when I was having these crazy things that were happening because I had to watch my father die from the age of 11 to 16. But I had to go through every bit of that to be here, because I had to see death in the worst way to see that death is really just a beginning. Oh, and this is a death cult here. This is what they want. They want to run death all the way through us, and everybody's so afraid of death that they don't realize you're dying every moment that you say anything that changes your mind. You know that. Am I saying that?
This is it's a revelation for most. For you and I, we resonate and understand this deeply.
Every day. Yeah.
And so, you look at the programming of past generations. If we just span back 100 years of mankind, or moreover, just American culture, there's a cycle that is programmed into the very viewpoint and perception of reality. So, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you work hard, you retire, you die.
Right.
And so that would go in the cycle of, I'm 50, I need to retire. I'm now going to, hang out with my smoking jacket at the end of the day, drinking martinis, and I don't make it to 60. Or maybe I don't make it to 55 because I've been given this program. The dream was buy a house, own a house, and die.
Yeah.
And so people don't realize they're being programmed.
That is a program. Oh my God. I remember when I was in the hospital in 1998, when they told me I had 6 months to live, when I refused the heart transplant. And I remember thinking, I did everything. I went to college. I got the husband. I got the house. I got a 2.5 children. I had everything. I remember I had everything. I had the cars. I had the swimming pool in the backyard. I had it all, but I was empty, totally empty. I had achieved, and it wasn't the come in that I thought it would be. This is when I started seeing it. And then I had the near death experience with the 1998. It woke me up. 5 years I worked to practice this. And I mean, that was so wild is I started doing this work, and then people started calling me from New York. I didn't even have a shield out. Nobody even heard about me, and they would hear about me from other ways. Or if I was traveling, they would hear about me. And I thought, how's that work? Well, when you're in the view of the quantum, of the entire quantum, when you understand light, you're already there. All you have to do is stand there, and they'll draw to you like magnets.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, this is, I mean, again, it's a revelation from most. A lot of my viewers are going to be like, my goodness, this is like you're speaking the language that we really appreciate and understand here on this channel.
I appreciate this.
Yeah.
Because you go out there, I have done 16, 17, 18 podcasts. A lot of them, you see they raise their eyebrows, or and I'm thinking,
no. You see, that's the problem. You get the factor, and this is what happens with frequencies that we're transmitting, right? It's so high that we're entering into a 3D reality. People are operating in duality, so they either are drawn to you or they're repelled. They're repelled. It's like one or the other. There's no in between.
But that's the way it's been ever since I've been doing this since 1998, when I really did, because I didn't really have much of a choice. I mean, when Spirit told me I had to leave my family, the back door opened, and it scared. Now, my family thought I was a witch because things were really happening. And, you got to laugh because, I mean, all I had to do is say certain things, and it would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to be very careful. This is where people better understand, because that does come back to you, and you'll feel the energy when it comes back. And you don't want to leave anything undone. You want it to be cleared out. You want it to be smooth, just like a rippling. You don't want a rippling water. You want it to be smoothed out. You can feel it. And that's the way it was when I first really woke up. I could take the sky. Let me go back. I could take the sky and tap it, and it would go vroom, 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 vroom. I mean, I was breathing with God or the earth. I literally laid down with this beautiful spirit, and I laid down, and she showed me the universal breath. There's no words.
My beautiful dear friend, I need you to hear me when I validate every word that you say with a commitment that the audience needs to understand. Like, I have, it's so profound because there's very few people that have been able to touch on things that you only know if you've experienced this.
Yes.
Now, I acquired this sort of sensory perception maybe 30 years ago with my first encounter. And you witness things like a healing, and you'll watch, you can see it, you'll watch the flesh wiggle and shift and change before your very eyes.
Nice.
And it will return back to a default setting, no matter what the trauma is.
Yes.
These are the types of things that Jenny and I are experiencing.
So I can disappear. I can be sitting down, and my body will disappear. And I had people used to fly in just to see me disappear. And they'd say, "You do really disappear?" I said, "Yeah." I can go in and out of my window right here. And I was dancing with God. That's how it started this. I was out in the universe dancing with God, and came back down, and Jeff Marr tapped me in 10 minutes. And I said, "Oh, sure." But I've been doing radio, TV, podcast for 25 years. Nobody ever heard it. I mean, I've been on, I'm a motivational speaker. I've been talking this for 25 years. So when it all fell, when everything happened, I mean, my dear friend, who's my producer now, and he's been with me, he's been a student as well. He's very much like me. He said, "But you know what you've done?" I said, "No." He said, "You're going viral." I said, "What does that mean?" You know, I mean, I lived under, the radar. I have clients all over the world, but I never had to advertise because that was all done by referral. I never, nuh-uh. I didn't want to be out. I
Yeah,
wanted to be, and now, well, as you well know, I think the universe said it's time.
it is time. It is time. And, understanding that deeper, like, access, and people need to understand this. This is not just a, an interesting idea or simulation. What Jenny is experiencing, what I experience when we're transmuting this energy and accessing other dimensions, this is very tangible, and it comes in the form of this 3D reality.
Yes.
It happens like manifestation, magic, healing.
Because you're the only person besides my producer, that he's worked with me, because he's one of my that understand what I'm saying. Because most of them think I'm in my ego, or that I'm too confident. And I think, you don't even know who I am.
It's just called it's called a knowing, right? And you're validating it through your own experience. And when you speak on these things, the second I even heard you just open your mouth, the resonance and the frequency, we instantly aligned.
Oh,
And
I say, I feel you.
and that everything that you speak on is 1000% true.
Yeah.
The truth is your representation, your transmission, and anyone that even has a minute ability to access energy is sitting by a fireplace right now as I'm getting my eyebrows burnt off with the transmission you're putting out. It just is. That's where you sit in that frequency, and that's why that the polarizing effects of a duality, which that you're bringing it from a higher dimension into this space. So this happens to me often. It's like people either love me or hate. I don't know what this is. This stuff keeps happening on when I do a podcast. I don't know what it is.
No, it's because you raise the frequency.
Yeah.
Because I had to stop doing this live because I was raising the frequency. When I get on that podcast with some of my clients, it would start up and light up and start. And then we have things that fly through there. We've had several dead people who've come through the light. And I mean, and I was in a podcast, a webinar that I was teaching, and I saw it, and I said, somebody's got somebody that needs to talk. And I mean, and they'll say, "Are you a medium?" I'm not a medium. I'm not a psychic. I live in this every day.
This is who I am. This is my reality. You say, I love this because people compartmentalize. They want to be like, I'm psychic John Smith. I'm a channeler, Rainbow Johnson. I'm the medium of all mediums, Mary Lou Smith. The reality is these are sensory perceptions. These are abilities to access levels of consciousness and your finite frequencies that are everywhere, happening all the time. And so Jenny is accessing the highest frequency and bringing it to this 3D reality. And that what does that mean? It means all of the above is accessible. There is nothing that cannot be accessed, and it comes down to just your imagination at that point. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, what do I want to do? It's like, it's not like, oh, and this is something that you could probably, we could have a conversation about. It's like, I find that I come across a lot of people that read a lot of books, and then they go, okay, we're in the earth plane, and then we're in the, the ethereal plane, and then we're in this plane, and it kind of you can tell that this person, unfortunately, is conceptualizing stuff, and that's okay. Everyone's going to start somewhere.
Yeah, and I look back at it because I've been living like this since I've been a child, but I never told anybody because I thought everybody could do it.
Right.
Like I said, but I was also in fear. If you're in fear, that limits everything into a different state of mind. And I see a lot of people that have got a lot of natural gifts, but they're so boxed in that they're afraid to even pick out, to even look. And then when somebody like me comes in and then you jerk them out, and see, I'm very hardcore. I'm a very strong coach. If I even have clients who will say, Don't go in there to her because she's going to go right after you. She doesn't. I don't do a lot of stories. I give you 10 minutes of story. I don't have time for stories. That's just a one way to get you in. I have only so much time to work with you, and I know you understand. I'm not going to die anyway soon, but I know there's going to be a moment that there's going to be a transition, and I want to pass on. My family thought I was crazy. My sons are now starting to realize that this really did happen. My town is now starting to realize, because I was a teacher, I was a lifeguard, I did all these good things and here then this woman comes in that's saying all kinds of crazy stuff. And you know what they used to think it was? They said, well, she's had that heart attack, and that's probably not enough oxygen to the brain. But yet at the grocery store, someone would look at, do you believe that there's a way that you could see dead people? I said, I see dead people all the time. And people would just go, oh my gosh, you can?
Well, this is the common thread, right? So they talk about this type of narrative behind your back, but then when the wet ass hour comes,
yes,
I need a miracle. All of a sudden,
they call me.
Tell me, I'm there. I'm at the crunch time, and I mean, I would validate you that when you mentioned I don't do the whole story thing. I concur, because I'm in a similar place, because you can literally. I always tell people, if you come from a place of psychology, biology, physiology, neurology, you are limited.
You do know that I'm a psychiatric social worker. I was a psychiatric social worker.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I was, because of my near-death experiences, I got to utilize that from a different state of mind.
Yeah. And I mean, what people
right. Doctors are stuck, nurses are stuck because they've been so programmed.
Right. So for you, people would be coming to you just as they come to me. It's like, I've had psychiatrists, therapists, healers, massage therapists, acupuncturists, Chinese medicine doctors, medical doctors. They all come back to the same thing: the energy.
That's it.
And there's nothing more powerful than
because you don't even have to do anything. All you have to do is feel it. You'll know if they're in or they're out.
And that, my friend, that's the thing that really makes me smile when you said, "Oh, look, I don't get into the semantics. I'm just putting a few words, peppering it in." But I mean, I'm very similar, because what happens is we could literally sit here and go over your natural born life and go into why daddy didn't give me 3 cookies and a glass of milk when I was 4. And that's just nothing more than a little blood. It's like driving down the street, this little speed bump. Go over it and keep driving forward, rather than this concentration of attention, because wherever your attention go, intention, energy flows, and that becomes more realized and repeated, and we go over it and over and over. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the things that I really learned in all of that is when I had to witness my father dying. My father, in 1968, he died in 1968, but he got melanoma. And the University of Kentucky, which is in Kentucky, this is a big university at that time. It still is. But they had never seen melanoma cancer. Now, my father was at another hospital, and I was watching him. I mean, they didn't know what to do. Now, he had a little bump. It was like a little purple bump right here. Now, he was in the Navy. No telling what they shot him up with. No telling what was being given. I didn't understand any of that because I was 11. But I remember we had $100,000 bill in 1968, or by 1967, for my father's 2 weeks in Central Baptist. Now, listen to this. So University of Kentucky, they came dancing over and said, we'll pay that bill, because my mother and me we think there's no way you're going to have that kind of money. And so they went in and they said, we'll fix that. Now, you know how they do that. All they did is they wiped it off. And then they would probably trade a machine or something to the hospital. We're not talking about, we're talking about money for us. But I remember they did things, they experimented with my father. And what they did is they took his eye out. They took the palate of his mouth out. They took the back of his brain out. And then they left him to go into the Viet. He was in the VA, then he went to UK, then he went into a nursing home. And I sat and watched that. And I watched what they did to him. And as a little girl, my mother's had to go back to work. This was things that, and I live in this house right now. I live in this house again. And I was 8 years old when I was in this house. This house is 900 square feet, but this held every bit of my information and every DNA that I'd ever gone through. And that's what, when I left my family and when I divorced my family, and I did, I came here and practiced everything that happened here. So I knew everything. I had all of the energy, and I watched my father dying, this time but from the ultimate observer. I looked at how it really did look, not through a child's life. God, or, the universe, whatever you want to call it, your soul, I don't care anymore. It came in and it showed me you had to witness this through a child's understanding, to flip it, to see, because I help people cross over. So I already know that I can lift that up and see them on an arc over, because you arc it over. You never do straight lines. This is what everything is arced. Everything's moving in differently. And so you help them cross over to a state of mind of no fear. And that's what I came in there. And this is what my higher self told me. It said, you came in here to go through all of the things you've had to witness. So you are prepared to get people ready, because you are ready. And that's exactly the way I feel.
Yeah. I mean, we are just vibing on things that we already both know that.
I might tell you, you don't know how much that means. Because I feel you, because that's how we build a world, a new world, is like this, not with somebody backing off. You can feel it. I remember I was teaching a group of people, and I taught them so much energy. We had to move them out of the room, because we built so much energy. And that's all I want us to do. You and I probably could change this world right now, man. You know that as well as I can do. We can do it. Yeah. And I'm ready to flip it. I'm ready, because I think it's time. And that's what my whole theme on this new year is. It's time. It's time to really look at it. It's time to experience it, to not be afraid of it. Welcome it in. And that's what, and I did have a Jesus experience. He did come in for 18 months, but he came in because I would have recognized that better than me. Mm-hmm. And when he turned into white light in front of me, he said, let me tell you something. He said, this thing about this flesh thing, he just went, he was gone. And that's what I knew. We are all light, because I've looked in the mirror. I know that I'm light.
Well, you're needing to dose yourself to come to that realization. So when you had that relationship with Jesus, that was necessary for you to transition, to realize that was you.
Yes, because I would recognize that. Well, I remember when he came in, I would say, okay, I'm going to ask you everything I'm going to ask you, because if you're going to be here, I will make sure I'm going to ask questions. And I said, how does everybody know about you? He said, how they were taught what I look like. And I thought, he said, if I walked in the room and you didn't recognize me as the image that you've been given, would you recognize me in there? I went, no, I wouldn't. He said, everyone is going to see differently to recognize me. And there will be some who will never see me.
Yeah. It's like whenever I see the presentation or he's present within someone's field, because their connection is such a high frequency, right. He morphs into different shapes and different
shape shifts.
Right? And shifting. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're speaking of, this is an ancient Taoist technique, and it's something that Jenny does, which is shape-shifting. When she was talking about it earlier, where she's able to move through walls, that's a shape-shifting skill.
Yes, it is.
You are, and unless you know, you don't know.
No, and you don't know that you even went through it, because you got to know the density of it. Because I've gone through solidified things, and it's different when you go through.
Oh, 100%. There's.
Oh my God, I'm so glad I've met you.
What a cool
and people just think I'm nuts.
No, not even. Sorry. Welcome to the real world.
Thank
Welcome,
you. Thank you. Thank
welcome home. Welcome
you.
home.
Exactly. Oh my God, you don't know. I knew because I kept saying, why can't they understand what I'm saying? Well,
And
now I'm an old lady. They think that I've had a couple of, near-death experiences.
no, there is a fundamental, and there's very few people that get that insight until they're directly face to face with it, and it's being experienced firsthand. So
Right.
for me, I can sit here and what you see is a backdrop of whatever you see. I am in the universe right now.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the universe, experiencing the gradient changes and density of the stars, the earth, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter.
But aren't we giants? Don't you feel like a giant when you're out there?
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I remember the first time when I walked through the plasma, and I thought I was because I was a lifeguard and I knew how the water felt. But I remember you felt there was a force in it. And I remember looking down and I thought, wow, those are puddles? No, those were the oceans. And I went that my higher self said, you are a giant in the universe. Why are you not acting like it?
And this is the part that people will look for. You see, I get a lot of people that are like, it's kind of like a parallel to the health and fitness industry. So if you have a little insight into that, right? So the health and fitness industry, everyone needs to look perfect, and they have their six pack and they have whatever. And so how do you acquire this illusion that you're in shape? It's either some type of like external force, i.e., some type of drug or an operation or something of that nature. And so this is very much parallel to where we are right now in relation to people's abilities. Like what you and I speak of, that is our reality.
Yes.
Most people want that more than they desire air,
That's
yet they can't acquire it. So then they look to external forces, i.e., mushrooms, whatever. And look, I don't have a problem with that. But what happens is they get what they call as a taste and they can't repeat it.
Yeah.
You and
Well,
I can
but I was
actually,
on both sides. I did first my fit because I was athletic, and I mean I was a dancer, and I knew how to dance. Now you know what I've learned is I'm 72 years old. I'm stronger from within, and I teach my clients and my students. I said, it's an inside gym inside. You've got to learn how to utilize within. And I've got arms that are, they'll ask me, say, how can you do that? I said, because I don't have to go to a gym. My gym is inside of my body. And I talk, and my body shows me the ripples of my muscle. I can get fat, and I've gone into my liver. I mean, it talks to me. Everything is alive, and it will show you like I broke my back I was in a car accident, and I was laying in and I was deep in there. And and all of a sudden I thought, well, my back it's still not fixed. And I just went like that and it just melted in my hand. I put it back in and I remember it popped and I thought, wow, I didn't even know that's been out. Oh yeah, you can do amazing things and never have to go out of your house.
and this is the part where people are pursuing it. So they go for the mushrooms, they go for whatever it is. Look, I think it's completely okay to get a glimpse, but what happens is they end up chasing it and coming up to my doorstep going, how do I repeat this?
Yes.
Because it's just a sample. It's not their reality. They want it as their reality. They want to live this way.
Well, they can't because they haven't really understood how long it works. Because what it is, you're right. I had a lot of glimpses. I tried shrooms when I was in 60. I was 60 years old. Now, I've always done marijuana. I did it when I was in college. But there's a difference with, numbing and utilizing it to really perform, make you stand further out. And most people want to go out and they want to ask to get, flight out in here. And I said, that's not going to get you anywhere. You're going to be staying out in the astro, but you're not going to do anything. I said, you got to go in here. So you have to do an inside job to do the outside job. And they, I tried ayahuasca, which that was no.
To the audience, I just want to mention that what Jenny's talking about is something that she has the ability to transmute anything. So it's like literally give her a glass of alcohol and she can turn that into a healing property of some kind,
Yes.
or something that will expand you. See,
Right.
I've come across people that use these things and they're tools, alcohol, drugs, it doesn't matter what it is, and they become tools, but you have to have a state of knowing that
Yes.
it's defaulted for you to realize this. You can't go into these things going, well, Jenny and San Ching said, "Oh, look, don't worry about it. You could
Oh,
transmute it."
no.
You
Yes.
have to know it in the core of you for that to be realized.
Exactly. I didn't do any marijuana or anything for a long, long time after I used to smoke it when I was, but I couldn't smoke because I had a heart attack. And I remember after I left my family and I was doing these really deep dives, and that's because I would be sitting on my couch, that's how I cornered my spine into my corner, because that would keep me very straight in the rod of what I needed to be for the energy to run. So I remember one day I couldn't get out. I couldn't get out of the top of my head. And I kept thinking, and literally it said, a little marijuana would not hurt you. And I went, oh, I know how you working. I'm not going there, because I really I thought, oh no. I said, I'll tell you what, if I'm supposed to have marijuana, then you bring it to me. Well, now I didn't think anything more about it because I ended up going to a woman's house that was Christian. And I was going in there because there were some things that she had met her dead husband, who now we found out was really murdered, but she thought he committed suicide and killed her 8-year-old stepson. So it was really traumatic. So I was going over there, and I remember I was scanning, and you'll know what I'm talking about. You always go in, you scan everything. I'm scanning everything from corners to corners, everywhere, and it's fast because you're scanning just to make sure you're in a good place, what's going on. And this literally, and this is true, literally took me to where an ashtray was, and there was a joint in it. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I said, is that a joint? She said, yes. I said, smoke it. We're going to smoke. That's exactly. But I knew that was divinely led. I know that you have to be now, because I have people come in here, they're addictors. And I'm trying to explain, because I worked with a girl that was within addiction, and within 4 hours being with me, she didn't have an addiction anymore. But she had to really look at why she created the addiction in the first place. She was lying to herself. And when she started working through that lie, that all kind of guffed right up into the throat, that she had to speak her truth in it. She didn't need the addiction. It's powerful.
Well, I mean, you're shifting. What Jenny's doing is shifting the energetics to a whole nother frequency, and then it cannot sustain.
No.
Its agenda. It will just dissipate.
Yeah, well, it can't, because and if you understand energy, and I was a scientist as well in quantum, the minute you start focusing on one thing, you change it anyway, and you leave everything behind you. And you've got it all, you could be 360. The minute you start looking, now I'll tell you what, I had a very interesting experience, and this is a Freemason experience. And I was brought in a deep meditation, and I wasn't thinking about it. I've done a lot of research with them. I know exactly a lot of things that they have done. And, because I was looking at all levels here. How is it that I can change frequency to find its truth in everything? That's what I'm looking for. I don't care about anything else. I'm looking for the real truth. And I ended up going into this area, and it was a blocked in. It was a little gate, and it's always like you felt when I was a Catholic. You had that little gate that you were at the altar. You couldn't go all the way up to the altar, but there was a throne in the center of this circle, and there was doors all the way around, all 360. But also, if you looked up, there were beings that were bigger than me, that were watching that was going on down here. So that's a viewing. And if I don't know if you've ever done, this is a ritual that I ended up getting involved, that I didn't ask for it, but You got to be careful with what you go into dimensions, and you know what I'm talking about. So I remember opened the gate. Now you're talking also, it's black and white checks. You already know where you are, and you already know that this throne, because I remember I have seen a throne before. And so you got to be conscious what thrones you get into. So I got up in the throne. I mean, I walked over. Now this went and shifted around to every door, every door. Now everybody, you can feel them. I could look up and I could feel them. They were you could feel them. She's going to make a choice. You're 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 going to make a choice. And it went all the way around and came back 360. And I stepped out and went, no choices for me. And I'm ahead of you, and walked out. See, because I didn't play it anymore. I didn't look for choices. I wasn't focusing, because that's what they do, is they take people like us and they try to divert us. And see, I'm not divertible anymore. I'm very clear who I am. And if you're going to play games with me, I can play a bigger game.
No, it's really it's like it's as if I'm replaying just the story of my life listening to
Oh,
you,
that's good.
because there's so much a deeper understanding when you're experiencing it, and you can have someone that can validate all the other things
Yes.
that are.
I feel it, because when you're telling, I mean, you can feel what I'm saying of my truth, of what I've had to stand in. I mean, I've had some people that really tried to take me out. And
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, from Dubai. I've had people that came in from, well, one woman came in from Dubai to come to a girl in Kentucky that she wanted a quantum healer. Now, why would she even know anything about that? Because they already know. And she is from the Society of the Rose. Now, she thought a little girl or a little old woman was going to be in Kentucky that wasn't going to be. I'm very esoteric. I've studied the esoterics. I know how it works. I know what magic feels like. And we had the same thing, a shaman from the Hollywood that did the same thing. Coming here, finding these younger, or psychics, or, they've got some abilities.
Yeah, 1000%. I want to tell the audience, I'm validating everything Jenny's talking about. My background using Taoist practices, the Chinese culture is very superstitious. So I've dealt with a lot of black magic,
Yes.
a lot. And it's amazing how deep these people will go, and the inner workings of the architecture of the magic they attempt to cast or conjure, as you would put it. And that absolutely, I want people to hear me very carefully. Your construct of your reality, if you're operating in a duality, you will be susceptible to someone that has nefarious sort of intention.
Yes, they will.
How the infrastructure of the magic works. It works on your emotions.
Yes, it does.
Works on your fear. And that's the biggest
category. It works a lot on your fear. I mean, I've seen snakes on the floor. I've seen things come out of the walls. Oh, yeah. But when you really understand what that is, I mean, I've seen things come out of my body. When I took the ayahuasca, it was a tainted ayahuasca. This was a guy that came in from Hollywood, and they were pulling essences off of people's bodies. And you know what I'm talking about. I mean, this white guy walked on. Now they were talking about vampires. I said, he's not a vampire. He's an essence eater. He took that essence right off of him, and that girl was weak. And I thought, so my higher self in this moment, I said, what do we do about this? Said, give it to him free. And I thought, give it to him free. Now my cat's going to come. He feels us. He's an energy cat. So that's what he's going to do, lay down. But I said, you want me to go? And he said, put your hands out and give it to him. And he ran from me, because the name of the game is to steal it. Never exchange it, because that's too much. That would take them into a different state of mind.
Right.
And I chased his butt all around this house, and he ran, and he left.
Well, you see, that's part of like reversing within when you start getting into deep levels of Qigong, you naturally do this. You've already tuned into it. But if I explain to the audience, what happens is you can reverse the energy and frequency and transmit it. And this is part of healing, right? But
Yes.
when you move this through other people's physical bodies, it affects the fascia, it affects
Everything.
the infrastructure of the nervous system, and you will feel it. And it will literally, it will contort your physical body
Yes.
very, very easily. And this is a transmission. This is all about it. It's like, always remember that, these people are preying on your fears. And that's the only way they can get in. And
That's it.
so understanding the fearlessness and not being conceptual, being able to embody it is how you prevail and raise your frequency above
Yeah.
this sort of like dark, sort of like you know
Well,
negative.
it's dark. It's very dark. It's very evil. What they're doing is taking the essence of innocence. And this is why they're doing it with children. This is because when they take your essence, that's the loosh that they're looking for.
Right,
I know
right.
exactly what I'm talking about because I've dealt with these people. And that's one because they're scared of me. And when they're scared of you, they've got a lot of power. But when they have no power with you because you're not in fear, because I mean, I went right after the shaman and scared him so bad because I said, come on. Because he knew that I knew my back, I knew myself. I knew my power. I knew, and I trusted myself.
Well, see, the architecture of how I frame general magic is always with an understanding of an expansion of the essence, but then when if someone takes their attention intention and they project it at you with anything that is not
Yeah.
of the highest frequency, it returns back to them tenfold. And so it's like, instead of me going, hey, look, I want to craft this thing. If someone's horrible, no, I'm not getting, as Jenny said before, I'm not getting caught in the semantics of the story or anything else. It's just imagine an invisible electric fence. And the second this stuff starts being directed in my direction, it comes back to you tenfold. And people feel it instantly, and they're like, "Holy crap!" Or you will get a psychic vampire, right? Which is where it's very common. And
Yeah.
so you're in a room with someone that has this sort of like intention, and they don't consciously know it. They're just
Well,
needy,
they
wanting.
don't know it. They don't
They're
even.
just they just want to complain, and their life is miserable. They're a victim, and they have no idea that there's something else feeding on them that is then feeding on everyone else. And
Yes.
all of a sudden, most people are like, man, all I did was ask her how's her life or how you doing today, and you're exhausted by the end of it. And people, they
Yeah.
can't understand the phenomenon, but this is an entity that's working from within them. They're not even consciously aware of it.
Not at all. Well, the thing that, when they throw something really strong at me, I'll go like that, absorb it and take it out. And then they're running through me and they're going, and then I'm connected. And then I just open it up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
this
they do that. They're wanting to do that. And I thought, no.
that power that Jenny's talking about is so tangible.
Yes, it is.
The audience needs to understand, for anyone new to the channel or all the OGs that are listening, this type of like power of attention, intention to be able to direct and focus this energy is a mastery that, of course, she's bringing to this lifetime from many lifetimes before, over and over again, expressing it. It's like something that you're just renewing what you already know.
I already knew this. Yes. I came to a reality. I had to go through all of my human thoughts, my fears and everything. But as I started seeing, as I got even deeper into why it was so important that I had to go through, why did I have to be my mother's seventh miscarriage? Now, my mother and I had a very hard group. I'm an only child, but she was tough. She was a narcissist and she was a controller. And I kept thinking, so that's why I left her a lot. And then I married a man that was exactly like her, because you're going to attract exactly what. And I thought, but he was, there was a lot of things that came out of this. And this is why I know it's like when I went down to my mother's womb. Now, remember, I lived here since I was 8 years old. So I'm still here. So my mother, I went down in her womb because I wanted to say, why is we were so contention to each other. We would just beat each other up. And I mean, we should have had, as a daughter and a mother, a connection that we would have, because if there would have been a connection, I would not have made a lot of decisions that I made. Okay. But I had to go through all of that. But I remember I was down in her womb and she's holding on, because all of a sudden I heard her say, or in that moment, is, this will be the last time you could ever get pregnant again. If you lose this baby, you'll never have another baby. So she was literally holding me in, and I'm deliberately pushing out. So you feel that. And I thought, oh my God, she loved me so much, but I'm thinking she's holding me back. So that's what it was, been a struggle. The minute I took a breath here, it was struggling to get out and struggling to be held on. So this is what we contentioned with each other. And then when I realized my mother was trying to save me, but because of her vulnerability and what we had to go through with my father, she couldn't be vulnerable. She had to be the strong woman. I'm glad she was, because I am a lot like her. I just have a different take on it. But I mean, that opened me up to see where I then made decisions against my mother, not in the benefit of me, but to hurt her. So all through my life, I had been hurting my mother, but I was the one that was suffering for the hurt. She didn't even understand it. You know, it's crazy what we do to ourselves. And when you get a chance to have that moment that you look down at your own self and you see I got to see my star, because I came in as a star, and I know I came in as a star. I came in with that, and I could see it coming in like this. And I remember it stopped exactly at 46 when I did that one. And it was like, but it rippled. And it says, anything that you change in the past through this higher consciousness, you can change everything. And my mother and father came back and thanked me for all the work I did in my back for them, because I'm also a relative of Sir Francis Drake. He is in my field a lot. So he's taken me to many places. And I mean, I look back because I'm running a whole different show, past, present and future, but it's all combined in one.
And so, for the audience to understand this magnitude, we're talking about, so Jenny can be in any state, even having a conversation with us right now, and she can go, I'm going to Rome. I'm out there. No, I'm actually going over there. You know what? No, I'm going to go next door to my neighbor because I feel like they're a little bit too nosy today. Let me check out exactly what they're doing. Now, this type of ability to enter these states of consciousness go beyond the framework of book read, remote viewing, and all the other stuff that is very limited, because these are more Hollywood constructs of what really takes place when you access this type of consciousness. And so for anyone out there that is looking to acquire this type of level of sensory perception, you know where you need to go by the end of this podcast, because that is powerful, my friend.
Well, you know what? I started out remote viewing. I knew I could remote view as a kid. I mean, I had amazing, let me wait a minute, just I've had amazing experiences. I mean, as a kid, in seeing demons, and but I remember when I finally came to the reality, and this beautiful voice came through, and it was my voice, but it's God's voice, and it says, "When you come from fear, we look like demons, but when you come from love, we are angels." Done. It's all perspective.
And it's interesting because I can literally go 10 years and never exercise anybody, right? But then you have a fire sale, and it's all coming from the construct, just like Jenny says, it's the construct. So the construct is, I'm buying into this, as simple as she told herself that realization. If you're coming from that fear place, they're demons. If you're coming from that high state of knowing, they're angels.
They're angels.
And it's that simple. I mean, I recall one situation where I was doing a channeling class with a bunch of students. I brought my mother in for the first time, and she was just like, "Oh, I'd love to check this out." And so we had about a dozen students, and one for one. So one was channeling, the other one was asking questions, right?
Mhm.
And so, you look at around the room, and there's some interesting, energies morphing in and out of their field. They're taking on some interesting source energy. This one particular one caught my eye, and it would start to morph in and out of something of a higher frequency to a lower one. It was sort of like shape shifting and then revealing itself and then moving back into.
Oh, so it moved. Okay.
And so I was like, hang on a second. So I stopped the student. I said, let me ask a few questions. And so this particular student was really, she was buying everything that they were selling. And like normally she would come in with 100 entities because she wanted to be the exorcist. She wanted to be a Hollywood exorcist. She wanted to be all powerful. Only her fear would reconnect with these relationships, right? So every week she would bring these back, and every week we have to do a clearing, a fire sale. Clearing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so this one week, she really, she was presenting herself as, I'm a changed person. Like, I'm off the booze, I'm off the drugs, I'm clear. And I was buying it for a minute until this entity started to present itself. And then I started asking questions, and it went from, here to a complete shit show in about 3 seconds. And next minute she spins around 3 times and is thrown across the room.
Oh, wow.
And then my mother goes white, and she goes, and she doesn't swear. She goes, "Holy shit, this is real." And it's like, yes,
it is.
This is, and it becomes even more tangible. Just as Jenny and I can tap into frequencies to alter this 3D reality, if you create a relationship with these lower frequencies, you realize the reality. I mean, this is what happens.
It's real. It's real.
To dismiss, and they look for this sort of like fear factor, right? A lot of these paranormal people that you see these days, but I've got the paranormal team. They're all disbelievers. They're all full of the proverbial BS. They don't.
Something just show up. It scares them to death.
Exactly. And
what happens is the ghost hunter.
They're like saying, "Hey, I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it," and it's not materializing because in the back of their mind they don't believe it, right? Yeah. But the fear raises up enough that it shows itself, and then they're like, I think I'm going to retire from this type of activity because
I've seen it. I've seen it. I've been pushed and everything. And I turned around and said, "You're not allowed to push me."
Well, you and I understand it. And when you understand that, you have no business or interest in wanting to entertain lower frequencies.
No, because you're entertaining it and they enjoy you entertaining it. And then what I ended up doing, though, this is what they get upset, is because I look at them usually and I say, "Do you know you're dead?" And most of the time they don't even realize they're dead, and then they're gone. And then all the ghost hunters get mad because you've taken everybody out.
And it's weird because that transmuted like a 3D effect.
Yes.
Can be tangible, but then it's like they create these sort of like scenarios that when you and I come to it, like there's a place in Vegas called the Haunted House, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a museum where they have all this haunted stuff. And it has, if you tap into it, it has zero juice in it. There's nothing there. There's nothing. It's like you shouldn't get any frequency or any spirit energy of any kind, right? Yet it sells itself as the place where you want to come, where everything is all haunted.
Giving them the outer feel of it, but they never, because I can't even go to, I went to the British Museum, and I would fall down with the Rosetta Stone and everything. I would be saying, I can't go to an Egyptian place because I'll put my hand on the case and then I'm down. Or I went into London and I went into the I guess it was a torture place. And I knew that I'd been on the plate and I went, and I was down again. And they said, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "Because I feel this."
Yeah.
And I'm from London. Oh,
we need to get you out here because I've started this segment on my channel where I go around each hotel and read it.
Yes.
And so far I've done 2. I've done the Caesar's Palace and
oh my gosh, that would be
Luxor.
Yes, because you can feel all of that.
And so we give them hotspots. So as a visitor, go and check it out because there's crazy energy in all
Oh,
these
I'd love
places.
to. I'd love
And
to.
I want you, we're going to have you out here, and we're going to go through and start exploring these places
Because that's what people need to know, that they're, because I have people, or I have clients that'll say, I walked in and the hair in the back of my neck. And I said, well, what did you do? And they said, I got out. I said, oh, why didn't you get grounded? Why didn't you start asking questions? What's going on? Why?
Right.
That's scanding. I loved it.
Yeah.
Producer does it. He's been doing it in Florida, and they've been doing that. And he said, it's so much fun because, well, one girl, she was standing there and she kept saying, I feel like so. And I said, and he called me up and I said, that's a gangster. And he said, how did you know that? I said, because I saw his hand doing it.
I can see it. Because I can see it. That's why.
See, oh my gosh, yes.
We're going to have you out here. We're going to do this because when I went to Caesars, this was a revelation for me because I never thought about this way. Now, not only are there a conflict of energy in that hotel, but more so, this is the revelation that I had, right?
Okay.
These hotels pay feng shui people like myself, yourself, that know the energy, and they construct it so when people walk through a certain door, they lose. So it's all framed out within, right down to the infrastructure of the symmetry of the floor, and every object around there. They are creating a losing environment.
Now that part, but let me tell you what, I went to a casino in Indiana.
Right.
You come in and you come in really, it's big. It's real big. But then they take you into a womb. You go down into a womb. I felt it. I felt like I'm in a womb. And then you go into a cold area and all of those machines are going off and you can feel the electricity, because I could go right down to the machine and feel which one was on, because you're setting up for me. But I didn't do it much because I knew if I start doing that, then I'm going to throw everything else off of the, because you can feel it. But it took us into a womb.
Oh yeah,
stuff.
There's in the Luxor, at the front of the Luxor, there are three entities, right? That will specifically, they're not there to guard. First of all, it's an asymmetry setup. It's not the way you set up a feng shui flow. Right. So these entities are there specifically to make people slip and fall in the front of the hotel. They have no desire of protecting anything.
Huge, aren't they?
Pardon me?
Are they huge?
Oh yeah.
Huge, because
you're sampling them.
Yeah, but now sometimes they're there to only let the certain ones to come in. They're guarded. They're guarding that door. Only the right ones can come in.
Yeah. And then everyone else slips and falls, hurts themselves.
How did you change it?
There was more a negotiation with the three entities, because there is another two inside the hotel that are guarding another area that is a hotspot for all these sacred. There were sacred ceremonies of American Indians that they put the hotel on top of the sacred ground.
They've got, that's why
and so then you've got a conflict of these spirits against the Egyptian ones that they literally imported in, because they constructed this whole construct. It's like you're blending these two, and
we've got to flip that upside down.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it
because oh my God, Las Vegas is probably one of the most crazy ones because of all the electromagnetic fields that go in, and then it's a damn desert.